Good evening and welcome to tonight's City Council for Monday, May 20th, 2024. Now, will you please take the roll?
I will. Mayor McEachern.
Here.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Here.
Councilor Tabor.
Here.
Councilor Cook.
Here.
Councilor Denton.
Here.
Councilor Blaylock is not here. Councilor Bagley.
Here.
Councilor Moreau.
Here.
Councilor Lombardi.
He's here on Zoom.
Is he on Zoom?
Councilor Lombardi. We'll mark him. Councilor Lombardi, can you hear us? Mark him as not here until we get proof of communication there.
Okay.
Okay.
7 present.
Before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I want to continue our well wishes for Kelly Barnaby, continue to improve. We're all pulling for you, Kelly. And I would like to turn attention to Mrs. Carmody, Constance Carmody. It's always difficult for me to refer to as Connie or Constance. She was always Mrs. Carmody. She was principal at New Franklin School for many number of years. And I cannot emphasize this woman's stature enough. I can't say she was nearly as tall as me, but she loomed over me even to this day. When she would walk into any cafeteria, it is as if a pin dropped and perfectly pressed. Mrs. Carmody demanded our attention, and I just thank her so much, and I just wanted to share how impactful she was at New Franklin. And I think that when we think about education, we certainly have our teachers, but we have the leaders of those schools. I know that Mrs. Simons does a great job right now at New Franklin. Mr. Shea before her, but Mrs. Carmody will always be that symbol of leadership to me, and I'd ask that you think of her for a moment before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and we share our condolences to her family. She passed away a week ago today. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have no minutes to accept, and we now have a presentation on the Energy Advisory Committee.
Your Honor, I'm just going to introduce Herb Lloyd from the Energy Advisory Committee, and he's fresh back from Italy. Buona notte, and tell us about renewable energy power for our wastewater treatment plants.
Well, I appreciate being here this evening. Thank you very much to the council members, mayor, and city manager. My name again is Herb Lloyd, and I'm a member of the Energy Advisory Committee under leadership of Councilor Tabor, who is the chair of that committee. Previously, we had put forth a proposal to move forward with an engagement with the Department of Energy. And I think everybody on the council has received a copy of that recommendation. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go back through and reiterate all the details of that. But what I would like to do is take a couple minutes to explain how we got to that recommendation and then see if there are any questions. So again, under Councilor Tabor's leadership, at the beginning of this year, our committee formed a couple working groups in which we are exploring opportunities for City of Portsmouth to look at renewable energy. And what we've gone through and done, implemented community power, but the question now is what's next? What are we going to tackle next that aligns with our climate action plan and supports the goals of the climate action plan, which is coming out shortly. So one of the working groups that we formed was around solar, and we're looking at opportunities for commercial, residential, and municipal solar. And as we started pulling on that thread, a meeting with Department DPW and with the Planning and Sustainability teams, we started looking at what, some low-hanging fruit, what made sense. So where we started focusing on is specifically municipal, looking at what could we recommend in the municipal space, because that's something that we have direct control over, right? And this council and the manager have direct control over. And as we've partnered with DPW and the planning department, we started finding more and more opportunities around wastewater treatment resilience legislation and funding from the federal government. So we pulled on that thread a little bit more, and that's pretty much how we've gotten to where we've gotten at this point now with making the recommendation. We know that we don't have the technical expertise to look at resiliency from an energy perspective for our wastewater treatment plants, but the Department of Energy does, and the Congress purposefully set up legislation and funding to move the Department of Energy forward to support communities like us, like the city of Portsmouth. So we reached out to the Department of Energy. They directed us to the National Renewable Energy Laboratories, NREL, which is under the DOE, and they said, hey, we've got a number of technical assistance programs. We can come in and work with the city of Portsmouth and evaluate, you tell us what, in relationship to energy and renewable energies. And so after a couple more conversations, we decided, let's take a look at our 2 wastewater treatment plants, which specifically have some interesting challenges. One of them is on an island, and there are some historic areas on Pierce Island that need to be preserved. There's also navigational beacons that can't be interfered with. There's limited space on Pierce Island, but that doesn't mean that we can't look at how we can be more resilient when it comes to energy and possibly, produce energy at that location. The other location out at Pease, the city doesn't own that property. It's, located next to a pretty active airport. And so again, there's some challenges around that. And we explained that to NREL, and they said, this is the business we're in. And so they're happy to spend some time and put together a scope and do some technical assessments of feasibility of making these 2 wastewater treatment plants possibly more resilient. And we live on the coast here, so we all know what that means as the future goes on. I think environmental impacts become more prevalent. And so that's what this proposal is that we're presenting here is the city of Portsmouth doesn't have any experience working with NREL, but this is a great opportunity for us to bite off a small engagement with them. There's no direct cost to the city of Portsmouth, and we'll be able to identify if NREL and the Department of Energy may be a good partner for us as we go forward. And if anybody knows where and how to obtain federal funding when it comes to renewable energies, it is the Department of Energy and the National Renewable Energy Laboratories.
Thank you, Herb, for that. I'm sure, I think Councilor Tabor is there any questions, I guess, of the presentation?
Yeah, does anyone have, are there any?
Oh, just the, we only get the, but any questions? If not, then thank you
Okay.
for the work on the Energy Advisory Committee and on Emerald here. Counselor Denton.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this forward. I'm curious if you considered a anaerobic digester. It's more expensive, but it fits far better with wastewater treatment plants. For anyone who's not familiar, anaerobic digesters take the current sludge that's there that we truck up to the Landkey turnkey landfill, last I checked, and dispose of it, but actually turns it into energy that could help power the plant. And this was something that was first explored back in FY17. I was able to get it into the CIP back then. It was too late for the Pierce Island wastewater treatment plant, and there's not enough footprint out there. It was considered out at Pease, and back then in the CIP, there was $50,000 for FY18, 1.5 million for FY20, and then a whopping 16.5 million for FY22. Obviously, it'd be far more expensive these days, but it might be worthwhile looking at actually taking the I don't want to refer to sludge as natural resources, but actually turning what's left of our waste into electricity.
The answer to your question is yes. And so assuming that we get the thumbs up to the approval to move forward with a small engagement with NREL, that is on the list of questions to discuss with them, is to look at the feasibility. It is a great question. It was a great question when you brought it up back then, and it's still a great question right now. And I think we need the experts in this area to tell us, what they feel initially is feasible and what may not be feasible right now.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
none from me.
Thanks, Herb. Appreciate
Great,
it.
thank you. Appreciate the time.
Your Honor, I'd like to propose we suspend the rules and bring forward item 15A under my name.
Second.
Okay. And
That's the motion under my name to engage with NREL.
okay. We have, is Vince able to participate yet? I'm just for the,
Last, I understood he was having audio difficulty.
okay.
Counselor, can you hear us? If you can hear us, please.
This is for a vote, so we'll need to either count his as absent if, is he? Councilor Lombardi, can you hear us?
While we're working on that, I see that one other member of the Energy Advisory Committee is here. If you wanted to just make
Oh,
a brief remark, Peter?
as a part of the Energy Advisory Committee, great. Mr. Somcich, please speak to the
Yes.
proposal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm just here in support of what Herb just proposed. I'm also a member of that solar working group together with Herb and Betsy. And I just want to say the National Renewable Energy Laboratory is really the premier laboratory of the government when it comes to renewable energy. And as one little example of what the things they're working on right now and have been for years now is to improve the efficiency of a solar collector unit. Most of us who have solar energy on our roofs have something that's 17% efficient, converting sunlight into electricity. The ones at the National Laboratory, they've already developed ones that are 25% efficient. And when you think of what that means 50% more energy on the same space on a roof of a house. That's a dramatic change, and those are the kind of things they're innovating. So having them as advisors in consultation with the city of what we can do to move forward, I think is a great idea. So I support that request. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for your comments. Do we have Councilor Lombardi?
He says he's still having issues connecting.
Okay, so since we can't have the vote of Councilor Lombardi, we'll continue to operate as if Councilor Lombardi is not a participant in this.
I
Oh.
see him now. See
Can
if
we-
that's any better. Counselor, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear. All right.
Finally. Finally. Sorry about that.
Well, we will now have a roll call vote on suspending the rules.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Counselor Tabor.
Yes.
Counselor Cook.
Yes.
Counselor Denton.
Yes.
Counselor Bagley.
Yes.
Counselor Moreau.
Yes.
Counselor Lombardi.
Yes.
Mayor McEachern.
Yes.
8-0.
And, Your Honor, I'd like to move that the city engage the National Renewable Energy Lab under the Clean Energies to Communities program to do a feasibility analysis and provide funding options for wind and/or solar power at the city's 2 wastewater treatment plants at no cost to the city. And if I get a second.
Second.
As Herb's outlined, this is a chance to see if we can get lower cost energy, greener energy, and greater resiliency for our sewer plants.
And based on the conversation thus far, this would take into account all renewable, quote-unquote, energy, including the
Anaerobic digester.
anaerobic.
Including the
digestion.
digester, yes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, we'll have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Counselor Tabor.
Yes.
Counselor Cook.
Yes.
Counselor Denton.
Yes.
Counselor Bagley.
Yes.
Counselor Moreau.
Yes.
Counselor Lombardi.
Yes.
Mayor McEachern.
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you again, gentlemen, Herb and Peter. I appreciate you coming out tonight and for pulling that yarn of thread and getting us down this path. Look forward to it. Next up, we have public comment. First up on is Karen Rosania on the topic of home occupation.
Good evening, Your Honor and City Council members. My name is Karen Rosania, 32 Boss Ave. I am a local artist and current member of the Arts and Cultural Commission. And tonight I actually am here representing the Commission in support of changing the definition of home occupation to allow artists to teach small classes in their home studios. We are in support of the proposed language being discussed this evening to allow up to 2 clients at one time for home occupation 1 by right, and up to 6 clients at one time for home occupation 2 with a required conditional use permit. And I do have a memo of support from the Arts and Cultural Commission, if I could please bring that forward. I did submit that electronically as well.
Yep.
Would that be okay? Thank you. So our desire to see a change to the definition of home occupation stems from community feedback voiced in both the 2001 and 2023 cultural plans. Focus group and survey respondents want to see fewer zoning barriers for artists and more combination work-living spaces, including more flexibility for in-home instruction for music, visual arts, and other cultural education programs. This will reduce the financial burden on artists and spread the cost of art classes across more participants and therefore make classes more affordable and accessible. In addition, we could see a positive impact on the broader economy as well, given these participants will likely bring more spending to area restaurants and other venues. If our classes are small and just a few hours in length, this should also help mitigate parking concerns, and as I understand it, would be vetted through the conditional use permitting process. So in conclusion, we are asking for your support to the changes to home occupation. Portsmouth has a strong, deep-rooted reputation for the arts. We are envisioning even more options for art classes across a multitude of mediums and at all levels, satisfying the needs of beginners that are looking to dip their toe in a new art medium to the most advanced artists. Let's keep art here so all creative souls can look no further than Portsmouth. So, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Next up, Roy Helsel on budget and manpower.
Good evening, Mayor and Councils. Roy Helsel, Middle Road, Portsmouth. I feel that the city should go to zero balance budgeting. This eliminates duplication and over budgeting. It was done at West Point in the 80s and the Air Force in the 60s and 70s, and this eliminated duplication and it saved funds. Also, the city is requesting many more positions because of new systems. I should think that they would implement a manpower and position study from an outside firm to ensure that all departments' positions are now required, and it eliminates duplication of positions throughout the city's branches, and would identify these positions and combine them. This was done throughout each Air Force base and West Point, and many positions were combined and some were eliminated also. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Next up, Paige Trace on the topic of Portsmouth.
Good evening, Mayor McEachran, members of the City Council. I'm really excited tonight because a resident gave me what I assume to be the new booklet on ancillary dwelling units that's finally occurred. It's been a year. You received a $50,000 grant. And I'm thrilled that you're actually, it appears as though you're all actively participating in what you stand by, in the fact that you agree that we need more housing and more affordable housing. I'm not sure, Mayor McEachran, that you received a copy of the booklet. With all due respect, with your permission, sir, I'd like to give you the booklet that the resident gave me. And I think that it represents, obviously, the possibility that you're no longer kicking the can down the road on the $50,000 grant that you received. So with that, I would ask that I could give you this booklet that I was given by another resident.
Happy to accept anything
Thank
from you,
you.
Paige. Paige. Next up, we had Peter Somsich, the guess that was on the Energy Advisory Committee. Any other speakers on public comment? I didn't sign up.
We have Byron Maddow on Zoom, Your Honor.
Byron, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me all right?
We can.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Byron Maddow at 17 Fields Road. Sort of budget season, and I don't know if this is the perfect meeting for it, but it's the one that I had time for. The 23rd is another work session, but it's also the same night as the Don Darrow Dribblers basketball game, where teachers will face off against each other, and there will be much fanfare. So I hope everyone pays attention to that event. It's a good fundraising opportunity. There's an auction and whatnot, so shout out to that event. But what I really wanted to talk about was some of the changes in the proposed school budget from the school board to the city council. So just to set the stage a bit, going into the budget that was proposed to the council, the school budget had already sacrificed 5 positions from the sort of existing services of the schools. This included an outdoor education position, Portsmouth High School math interventionist, 3 instructional tutors at Don Darrow. So these positions were already eliminated when the budget coming to the city council was proposed. And then since then, the city manager's budget dropped an additional, looks like 3 full-time equivalent positions. It sort of comes from math specialist at New Franklin, special education teacher at Portsmouth High School, part-time or sort of a half of a part-time nurse, and a maintenance supervisor to support the facilities director, Ken Lynchie. So I just want to express that my disappointment that in the further cuts beyond the 5 that we're losing from the existing services from the schools, and that I would hope that the city council would reconsider and consider the budget that the school board put time and effort into coming to a conclusion on. In that budget as well was funding for modular classrooms for Don Darrow, and I know this has been topic of some debate and interest lately. I just wanted to offer that the school board, members of the school board, and specifically those focusing on making sure that there's an equitable distribution of students across the district, are very focused on this particular problem right now, and we've definitely heard the concern from the council, but that I hope that the council doesn't stray from funding these classrooms for at least the very least, or hopefully at most, but this coming year. I don't think attempting to sort of armchair solutions in the very short term is really what the school community needs and wants. I've had conversations with many parents and with the PTA at Don Darrow, and I think there's a good amount of anxiety around not exactly knowing what is coming. So I hope that the council will support, after the cuts that have already been made to the school services, this particular expenditure to assure those residents and make sure we're set up for a proper and holistic look at the equitable distribution of students across the district. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Byron. Go Dribblers. Next up, any other? Nope. So we will move on to first reading of ordinance. First reading ordinance amending Chapter 10, Article 4, Section 10.440, Table of Uses, Residential, Mixed Residential, Business and Industrial Districts, Section 19.22, and Article 15, Section 10.1530, Terms of General Applicability regarding home occupation.
Your Honor, I move to pass the first reading of the proposed amendments regarding home occupation and to schedule a public hearing and second reading on June 17th, regarding home occupancy, and to schedule the first hearing schedule a public hearing and second reading at the June 17th, 2024 City Council meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Councilor Marone.
At the planning board level, we added the 6, which we talked about before, and there was a lot of public support for that and changing it to the conditional use permit so that if any neighbors did have issues with that, we'd have the chance to actually have a public hearing on it. So there's a lot of support for these changes.
Councilor Cook. Thank you, Councilor Marone.
I just wanted to say a personal thank you to the planning board for all the work that they've done to bring this forward, and a personal thank you also to the chair, Rick Chelman, for his particular work on making sure this reflected the needs of the artistic community in Portsmouth.
Well, as somebody that now lives in the house that, again, I beat this into the ground each time we talk about this, but I took art classes in the house I now live in, so always excited to be able to make that use of 40 years ago or 30 years ago legal today. So looking forward to righting the wrongs and moving this forward. So we'll need a roll call vote on this.
Assistant Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Tabor?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Denton?
Yes.
Councilor Bagley?
Yes, but Councillor
Blaylock.
Blaylock has arrived.
We got
I didn't see that.
sneaked in.
I try not to bother anyone.
Councilor Blaylock,
Yes.
Councilor Bagley,
Yes.
Councilor Moreau,
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi,
Yes.
and Mayor McEachran.
Yes.
All present and voted.
And we're on to the city manager's items which require action.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 4 matters relative to housekeeping for projects this evening. The first request is a water service access agreement for property located at 686 Maplewood Avenue. At the February 15th Planning Board meeting, the Planning Board granted site plan approval and a conditional use permit for development within the Highway Noise Overlay District for the construction of a 6-unit, single-family residential condominium with associated infrastructure to be located at 686 Maplewood. And as part of that site plan approval, the Planning Board recommended that the City Council accept a water service access agreement easement over the parcel. This will permit city staff to access the property for the purpose of leak detection and to turn valves on or off in the case of an emergency. Approvals were granted to the Islamic Society of the Seacoast area, which has since sold the parcel to Chinburg Development LLC. The applicants have provided the attached deed, which does conform to the city's ordinary form for such easements, and it's been approved by legal and planning.
Your Honor, I would move to authorize the city manager to accept and record a water service access easement deed in substantially similar form to the easement deed from Chinburg Development LLC contained in the agenda packet.
Second. Your Honor. As a tenant of Chinburg Properties, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Councillor Denton, any questions for the city manager on this? We will have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
Councilor Tabor,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock,
Yes.
Councilor Bagley,
Yes.
Councilor Moreau,
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi,
Yes.
Mayor McEachran.
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Item number 2 is same request, different location. So similarly, we are looking to accept the water service easement across the parcel located at 1155 Sagamore Avenue, which will allow city staff to access the property for same purposes of leak detection and to turn valves on or off in the case of the emergency. Approvals were initially granted to Maureen Oakman and Michael Valinsky, who have since sold the parcel to 1155 Sagamore Avenue CBC LLC. Again, the attached deed conforms to our normal deed and has been reviewed and approved for acceptance.
Your Honor, I move to authorize the city manager to accept and record a water service access easement deed in substantially similar form to the easement deed for 1155 Sagamore Avenue, CBC LLC, contained in the agenda packet.
Second. Any discussion? We'll have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
Councilor Tabor,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Denton,
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock,
Yes.
Councilor Bagley,
Yes.
Councilor Moreau,
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi,
Yes.
Mayor McEachran.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a request for a sidewalk easement for property located at 212 Woodbury Avenue. At the Planning Board meeting of April 20th, 2023, the Planning Board granted preliminary and final subdivision approval for a lot relocation plan and site plan approval for the construction of an 8-unit condominium development with associated infrastructure to be located at 212 Woodbury Avenue. Following approval and the start of construction, it was discovered that a portion of the public sidewalk, which was to be constructed by the applicant within the public right-of-way, needed to be relocated to private property. This relocation was memorialized in amended site plan approval by the Planning Board. The Planning Board granted its original approval to Maple Heights Realty LLC, who then conveyed the property to Chinburg Development LLC. We've shown here tonight the sidewalk easement area in the drawing you have in your packet. The applicants have provided the attached deed, which does conform to our form and has been approved internally.
Your Honor, I move to authorize the city manager to accept and record a sidewalk easement deed in substantially similar form to the easement deed from Chinburg Development LLC contained in the agenda packet.
Second.
Councillor Denton.
Again, Your Honor, I'm going to be recusing myself as a tenant of Chinburg Properties.
Councilor Lombardi, just please stay on mute when you're not speaking to avoid background noise. We'll have any questions on this. Councilor Moreau.
In the actual easement itself, in order to make it recordable, in the end of the first paragraph, you need to add Rockingham County.
Will
Otherwise,
do.
they're going to reject it.
Got it.
With that, I think that counts as substantially similar form. So we will do that. Any other questions on that? Thank you, Councilor Moreau. We'll have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Tabor?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock?
Yes.
Councilor Bagley?
Yes.
Councilor Moreau?
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi?
Yes.
And Mayor McEachern?
Yes.
8-0.
Last request relates to the release of a sewer easement and acceptance of city property located at 2 Russell Street. This is a rather complicated deal, and I can tell you that this will be back before you again, but for now, we're looking for approval in a limited fashion. Back in December 15th, 2022, the Planning Board granted lot line revision approval to adjust boundary lines on 3 lots collectively located at 2 Russell Street to Port Harbor Land LLC. As part of that lot line adjustment approval, the Planning Board recommended that the City Council release an existing sewer line easement and accept 3 separate parcels of land, which will facilitate the realignment of the intersections of Russell and Deer Streets and Russell and Market Streets. We've got the conveyances shown on the attached drawing in your packet, and you will see that the existing sewer easement was granted to the city in 1936. That line has since been relocated and a new easement granted. So these approvals will be subject to the property owner providing deeds to the city in a form acceptable to the legal department and to providing adequate evidence of title in a form acceptable to the legal department. So the idea is here to allow all this to work for the purpose of subdivision approval. This will be back to the council once site plan is finalized.
Your Honor, I move to authorize the city manager to execute and record a release of the 1936 sewer easement and accept and record the fee interest in 3 parcels as shown on the drawing included in the city council packet.
Second?
Do we need to note that these conveyances are subject to the following conditions in the motion?
Yes, please.
All right. These conveyances are subject to the following conditions. Number 1, property owner will provide deeds to the city in a form acceptable to the legal department. And number 2, property owner will provide adequate evidence of title in a form acceptable to the legal department.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? The city manager, we expect to have, you said, further discussions on these as...
Correct. This is just the initial step for housekeeping.
Okay, got it. Okay, so from a project standpoint, more to come. Housekeeping, this is the first step.
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? We will have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Tabor?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Denton?
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock?
Yes.
Councilor Bagley?
Yes.
Councilor Moreau?
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi?
Yes.
Mayor McEachern?
Yes.
9-0.
Next up, we have the consent agenda.
Your Honor, I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second?
All right. Any questions on the consent agenda? Have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Tabor?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Denton?
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock?
Yes.
Councilor Bagley?
Yes.
Councilor Moreau?
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi?
Yes.
Mayor McEachern?
Yes.
0.
Next up, email correspondence.
Your Honor, I move to accept and place on file.
Second?
We will have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Tabor?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Denton?
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock?
Yes.
Councilor Bagley?
Yes.
Councilor Moreau?
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi?
Yes.
Mayor McEachern?
Yes.
9-0.
And then we have one more under written communications, a letter from Megan Frabagia, Library Board of Trustee member regarding the library budget.
I move to accept and place on file.
Second?
Any discussion? simply note that it was in favor of the library budget as proposed, and we will place that on file. And a roll call vote.
Sister Mary Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Tabor?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Denton?
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock?
Yes.
Councilor Bagley?
Yes.
Councilor Moreau?
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi?
Yes.
Mayor McEachern?
Yes. All right. So next up, we'll go to the councilors. We received letters from, on the letter sent to the SAU 52 districts, letters from Rye, Greenland, and Newington. We received letters from Newington and Rye. We received informal communication that was supportive of from Greenland. The general tone is highlighting the things that they are doing. I will say specifically on Rye mentioned some of the changes they've made to their zoning, highlighting the difficulty that they have with parcels of land. Greenland, in an informal letter, cited situations that they have or trouble with water and sewer. I think this ties into a conversation we had from our budget standpoint last week, where we talked about what a larger water and sewer district would entail. And that's something that I do believe we already have a memorandum of understanding with Greenland. So when we get that formal letter, we will respond in kind. That was specifically highlighting the need of their residents who want to downsize and open up single-family homes for other families, wanting to also stay in the community. That's certainly something that I'm sure all of us would recognize in the different parts we will all play in meeting the housing crisis. The other purpose of the letter, and that is, again, the Episcopal Church is a great example of a non-municipally owned piece of property stepping up and working with housing authorities. So in part of this letter was to highlight the fact that any private landowner that wishes to, in any of the surrounding communities, may partner with the PHA to go and try to find those tax credits and do so an ability to build housing. I think this is the first of many conversations, but was encouraged by the feedback that we received, and we will drill down to find further ways to help our general SAU 52 communities meet this moment. Any questions on that? Next up, appointments to be considered. Now, this doesn't require a vote, but I'd ask that you consider Amy May Court to the Recreation Board. Amy May, in addition, just to being a cool person, found time to co-chair the skateboard park, which turns out wildly successful, guys. I don't know if you heard about this thing, but it was a lot of fun. We had Councilor Moreau, Councilor Bagley, Councilor Blaylock, and Councilor Cook at the dedication. The rain held off. They did a fantastic job. I did not drop into any bowls or whatever you can get on a skateboard for the best, but it was impressive. I hope that you consider Amy May in the purpose of which she would be a great member, and please reach out to her with any questions before next meeting. I do have a regret to inform the council that Robert Bob Bogardus has tendered his resignation from the rec board. It has been, and I'll read just briefly from this note. It is with mixed feelings that I write this email announcing that I'm resigning my volunteer position on the Portsmouth Recreation Committee effective immediately. It's been my pleasure to be part of a responsible group trying to provide services to our local citizens of all ages. Prior to this email, I've spoken to both Chairman Rich Duddy and Director Tom Headley, telling them of my request to terminate the position, and still that he's available to volunteer in any ways. But I appreciate, Bob, the work that you have done on behalf. Certainly his the work that you've done on the Senior Center certainly has been impactful, and I know you will continue to do so.
Your Honor, I move to accept the resignation of Robert Bogardus from the Recreation Board with appreciation of service and a letter of thanks.
Second.
And just to touch on that, it's been an honor to serve with Bob. I actually served on the Rec Board before I was elected to the City Council. But Bob, thank you for all you've done, and I hope we'll serve for another committee together.
All right, thank you, Bob. And it was great to see him at the skateboard dedication as well. We'll have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Tabor.
Yes.
Councilor Cook.
Yes.
Councilor Denton.
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock.
Yes.
Councilor Bagley.
Yes.
Councilor Moreau.
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi.
Yes.
Mayor McEachern.
Yes. And now we have appointments to be voted. The reappointment of the reappointment of Luis Rodriguez to the Cable and Broadband Internet Commission, reappointment of Stuart Shepard to the Conservation Commission, reappointment of Dan Brown to the Historic District Commission, reappointment of Michael Griffin to the Trees and Public Greenery, as well as Dennis Sujo to the Trees and Public Greenery.
Your Honor, could we pull the HDC reappointment out of the others?
Certainly.
Okay. Your Honor, I move to accept and approve the aforementioned reappointments, pulling out Daniel Brown to the Historic District Commission.
Second.
And so we will vote on Dan Brown's application separately. All in favor? Oh, no, we can't do that. We will have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Tabor.
Yes.
Councilor Cook.
Yes.
Councilor Denton.
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock.
Yes.
Councilor Bagley.
Yes.
Councilor Moreau.
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi.
Yes.
Mayor McEachern.
Yes. Would you like to make the motion, or I wait a motion to appoint Dan Brown to the HDC?
So moved.
Well, second.
Any discussion? Councilor Bagley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say, I acknowledge the work that the HDC does as a group of volunteers, and I think their work is very important. However, I am disappointed that our chief building inspector recommended the demolition of a building due to safety reasons, and that the HDC is not, as to this point, accepting that recommendation. And I would put the health and safety of our public above the aesthetic wants of the HDC.
Thank you, Councilor Bagley. Any other comments or questions on Dan Brown's reappointment? Seeing none, I will sing for his supper and the applicant that I put up. I think that from a standpoint of the HDC, there's a lot that we can question I guess question of the HDC, what they do. As with any board, it is our want to question that. But when I look at the attendance record and being able to carry out the duties of the HDC member, I hope that we can support this applicant as he has met certainly attendance record and brings a passion to what the HDC is, and would hope that if we believe that there are further policies or ordinances that we would like them to enforce or not enforce, that we would take that up on the council level. But we will have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Tabor.
Yes.
Councilor Cook.
Yes.
Councilor Denton.
No.
Councilor Blaylock.
Yes.
Councilor Bagley.
No.
Councilor Moreau.
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi.
Yes.
Mayor McEachern.
Yes.
Pass 7-2.
Next up, we are on to the counselors, but one of the counselors is already gone. Fantastic. Councilor Tabor. So we're on to Councilor Cook and Councilor Bagley with their items for discussion.
Thank you, Your Honor. As everyone in this council knows, we've been looking at the issue of, well, some people think it's an issue, some people don't, but overnight parking of both people passing through on vacation and people that can't afford the high cost of housing here in the city. And one of the things that the city appears to prohibit at this time, which we might consider changing our zoning rules, is to allow for overnight parking in commercial lots, for example, something like a Walmart along those lines. So this would be a request to the city manager to have a report back on updating our zoning so that we would allow that type of overnight parking.
I'll second that if it's a motion.
Is it, so was that a,
I guess the motion would be to ask the city manager to report back on overnight parking in commercial lots.
Second.
any further discussion? Counselor Cook?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll just add to what Councilor Bagley said. It is very common for Walmarts to provide overnight parking for travelers through town. And one of the benefits of knowing that a Walmart provides that overnight parking is that if you're driving down the highway and it's late at night and you're tired and you don't know where to stop, this area doesn't have a lot of RV stopover places. It doesn't have campgrounds that are close by Portsmouth. And so allowing that a commercial entity to determine whether or not they want to have overnight parking on their lot, and then if they do decide to do so, provides those individuals an opportunity and a place to stop so that they're not endangering others on the road overnight. And I think that was always the intention for Walmarts, and you see this happening across the country. I guess the greatest example locally is the Epping Walmart. Regularly has overnight camping there. People park at the end of the lot. They don't disturb anyone. So I would be eager to hear back from the city manager on this.
Any other discussion? We will have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Tabor.
Yes.
Councilor Cook.
Yes.
Councilor Denton.
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock.
Yes.
Councilor Bagley.
Yes.
Councilor Moreau.
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi.
Yes.
Mayor McEachern.
Yes. On to grants and donations. The acceptance of community development block grant in the amount of $527,700. What?
You skipped a couple items.
Oh, you know what? That's because I looked down. I said Councilor Baggy was just talking. So, but I totally missed. I have no excuse for passing over Councilor Denton. So, Councilor Denton, please share with us the Memorial Day events.
Gladly. So either Saturday or today, about 1,500 or so mailers went out from the VFW, started arriving in the towns of Portsmouth, Newcastle, Rye, and Greenland, letting everyone know that Portsmouth has scheduled a return of our usual Memorial Day events. I also included in there that this will be my last Memorial Day as commander of the VFW. One of my good friends and fellow Iraq War veterans, Jonathan Day, who many of you know, will be taking over as commander. With that, the Memorial Day events, the first one will be this Friday. Memorial Day is early this year, just based on the day that it falls, at 11 o'clock in Prescott Park by the Anchor. Everyone here is invited. It's for the laying of the wreath ceremony. It's the shorter of the two ceremonies. I'm excited that the middle school band will resume marching to Prescott Park for this ceremony. They haven't done this since before COVID, and that ceremony should take no more than half an hour. The second ceremony / parade is the bigger of the two. It's on Memorial Day itself, which is Monday, May 27th at 1 o'clock. Everyone's going to step off from Parrott Ave in front of where the courthouse is. Everyone's welcome to participate, or at least stand by and observe as it marches. It will be led by a police detail with their flag detail. Any elected officials are welcome to march. The marching band's going to be present. Similar to the Portsmouth 400th, the VFW has recruited DeLoreans to transport veterans who first pick will go to veterans who are unable to make the probably mile-and-a-half march to the South Street Cemetery. And yes, I am getting a certificate of insurance to the city manager for that. And the city's going to be providing a follow-up van for any additional veterans or people who just feel like riding in the van instead. There'll also be Boy Scouts in the parade. And the parade route, it's the same route that it used to follow, which we will proceed down Parrott, make a left on Junkins, go to Pleasant, make a left on Pleasant. When you get to Market Square, make that left, go all the way down Congress Street, making a left on Middle, go down Middle to Richards Ave, and this is usually the most fun part because a lot of people just come out of their homes with American flags and wave them. Go up Richards Ave, cross over South Street into the cemetery. The gate's going to be open. Proceed down into the ceremony cemetery, and that's where we're going to have the ceremony itself. So we're anticipating the ceremony would likely start around 1:45. Our keynote speaker is Portsmouth resident and now Brigadier General Bill Davis. He's been both enlisted and an officer over the past 35 years, fellow Iraq veteran, and he's currently Chief of Staff of the New Hampshire Air National Guard. So I'm looking forward to what he has to say. I'll be emceeing both ceremonies. The temple will be providing congregants, hopefully I got that right, to do the invocation and benediction at both ceremonies, and of course there'll be music. And once that wraps up, we're going to march out of the cemetery, make the right onto South Street, make the left back onto Junkins, and hopefully have everything wrapped up by 3 o'clock Memorial Day. Everyone is more than welcome to attend. And in that mailer which went out, I put my phone number for any veteran who knows they want to ride in a DeLorean. And I know the mailer arrived because I started getting phone calls today.
Thank you very much, Councilor Denton, for all you've done on behalf of veterans and putting and organizing these events. I'm sure Portsmouth is going to be excited, and we will pray for good weather.
Oh, on that note, in the event of thunder or rain, both events will be held at the American Legion upstairs, so no parades, much scaled down services. So thank you for that matter.
Thank you, Councilor Denton. Now, Councilor Bagley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to approve and accept the action sheet and minutes of the May 2nd, 2024 Parking, Traffic, and Safety Committee meeting.
Second.
And I'll just speak to it briefly. Not a lot at this meeting. We did get a review of the New Hampshire DOT 10-year plan, but there is, which will go into the omnibus if this is approved, and then I would hope would come back for a first reading sometime soon, is to adjust some of our sidewalk ordinances to prohibit the use of electric bikes and electric scooters and electric skateboards, some new items that weren't thought of when we created these ordinances many decades ago.
Assistant Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Bagley, in here there was a notation about the rail trail parking and trucks on Banfield. Do you recall what that resident concern was?
Yeah, so she was asking if there would be more parking, and yes, there will be through a state grant, and Director Rice probably remembers better than I do, but I think in 2 locations along the rail trail.
It's and it's a congressionally directed spending grant.
Right. Okay.
So that will be accommodated sometime soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions for Councilor Bagley? Have a roll call vote?
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Tabor.
Yes.
Councilor Cook.
Yes.
Councilor Denton.
Yes.
Councilor Blaylock.
Yes.
Councilor Bagley.
Yes.
Councilor Moreau.
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi.
Yes.
Mayor McEachern.
Yes.
0.
Now to approval of grants and donations, acceptance of community development block grant in the amount of $527,797 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Your Honor, I move to accept and expend a community development block grant in the amount of $527,797 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Second.
Any discussion?
Love the block grants.
Councilor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just was curious if this is substantially similar amount as to last year.
It is, thank you for bringing that up, Counselor. It is a decrease of $1,749 from our current fiscal year. And the note about the decrease is that it is part of the decrease in congressional budget allocation for the entire nationwide CDBG program and not a reflection of how the city's been performing with the grant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We will have a roll call vote.
Assistant Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Tabor.
Yes.
Councilor Cook.
Yes.
Councilor Denton. Yes. Councilor Blaylock.
Yes.
Councilor Bagley.
Yes.
Councilor Moreau.
Yes.
Councilor Lombardi.
Yes.
Mayor McEachern.
Yes.
0.
And now we have 2 informational items from the city manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first one is a note about status update relative to Sherburne School disposition. Last week, staff put out a request for qualifications. which speaks to the creation of permanent below-market rate housing on the municipal property located at 35 Sherburne Road. And the RFQ seeks both letters of intent of interest with statements of qualifications from real estate development entities relative to their capacity to design and construct a project at this site. By way of process, questions will be accepted on a rolling basis and answers provided in writing on our website. But the deadline for submitting questions will be May 29th, and responses are due no later than 1 p.m. on June 7th. So we will be back to the council with an update shortly after that.
Councilor Tabor.
Can you just tell us about how many developers this went out to?
I believe the number is 18. It went onto 2 pages, and it was 18, and not just in the state of New Hampshire.
Right.
I believe it was New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Bagley.
Thank you, Your Honor. And the city manager, when these, so say we get more than one back, what happens next? Does it come before the council, or does the city grade and evaluate them and send them to the council?
We will have an evaluation committee to do just that, and our hope is that we get back one that is responsive and responsible. But we also reserve our right, if we do not see something we think is responsive, to update you on that as well. But the evaluation committee will bring that forward. So at the very least, at the June 17th meeting, I can provide an update.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, City Manager.
I got one other action item real quick, and that is a sneak preview of what we will be asking for a formal vote on at the next council meeting, which is June 3rd, which is the adoption of the 6 resolutions that accompany the adoption of the budget. So a reminder that there are 6 of these, and they are in your packet in draft form, subject to change if the budget is amended in any fashion between now and adoption. But they're listed in order of municipal fees, general fund, water fund, sewer fund, special revenue fund, and then the thing that we have to adopt every year is the annual investment policy required by state statute, provided for your information. Thank you.
And a reminder, at the June 3rd, the anticipated budget approval meeting, subject obviously to discussion on the Thursday work session that we have, is we would expect amendments to be at least, if not finalized, to be shared for budgetary impact before that June 3rd council meeting, and then they would be a part of that budget adoption. We would amend that as a part of that budget meeting. All right. Anything under miscellaneous? Councilor Cook. Oh, and Councilor Moreau. I looked this way first, sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a quick question for the city manager. I know that we told you at the last meeting that you didn't have to rush on the South End Meeting House, but I just wanted to find out if there's any anticipated timeline for issuance of an RFP.
That followed closely on the heels of the RFQ for the Sherburne property, so I will look to my right, and we're working on a draft with the legal department, so we will have that out shortly.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure that we announce publicly that the dates have been set to do a charrette for the Service Credit Union property. They're doing a kickoff event on Thursday, June 20th. They're going to do a site walk and then have a kickoff event, and then all day on Friday, June 21st, will be the actual charrette process. So they're currently working on materials to get out to the public, but I wanted to put that out there. So if anyone's interested in spending time talking about a fully affordable development on their back 26 acres, that's a great time to get input.
Indeed. Thank you, Councilor Moreau. Any other under miscellaneous? Okay. I'd wait a motion
So moved.
to adjourn. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Do we have a roll call there?
No, we don't, because
Vince dropped off.
Vince is gone.
Rotary.